today we see how to install Kubernetes practical with Minikube and Kubeadm. Okay, so today we're talking about different ways of installation. So we have uh, Minikube, Kubeadm, Cops, Kube Spray, and Kubernetes as a service. Like you can choose any of the cloud vendor, whether GKE, AKS, or EKS. So anyhow, we are going to talk about GKE, right? So today we'll see. We are not going to see how we are going to install with Cube Spray or Cops. So we just see Minikube, Kubeadm, and then from Monday onwards, we'll create Kubernetes cluster in the GK. Then from there we can go on discussing about the Kubernetes components. Okay. So you can give a try of how to install with the Cops and Cube Spray. See, end of the day, you uh, you are going to install the Kubernetes, but in the different ways. Okay. So, but Minikube is only for local purpose, local cluster. Okay. It is not for any real-time environment production or maybe development environment. Only for testing purpose. Maybe it's for developer or it may be DevOps engineer or maybe purely Kubernetes administrator. Before implementing anything inside the real environment, we can do testing it on our local environment. Okay, so that's what we can use Minikube. And Kubeadm, we can use it on any bare metal environment or maybe on the any cloud environment. We create virtual machines and manually we'll install Kubernetes and configure everything accordingly, and we make it ready the cluster. Okay, and Cops, especially this is for the AWS environment. So in the AWS environment, it can be created, and remaining environments, it is still in the beta version, but as of now, full-fledged we can use it on the AWS only. Okay, so backend what it will do, it will create uh, VPC, subnets, auto scaling, everything it will configure by default itself. Okay, so Spray is the latest one. It uses Ansible playbooks. So it is also can be used anywhere like bare metal or maybe in any cloud also it can be used to make your Kubernetes ready. Okay, cluster setup ready. And GKAKS or EKS, it's a cloud environment. So these also will use in the production environment. So end of the day, the commands, the concepts, everything is same, but how you are making it ready will be different. Okay. So from this we'll learn how to use Minikube, maybe because in real time uh, when you start working on Kubernetes, if you want to do test anything, if you want to check anything locally, you can install and check, and then you can implement the same. But you are not going to get the full components, full features of the Kubernetes in the Minikube. Okay, and another important point is Minikube you cannot install on any of the virtual machine. Like if you want to create AWS virtual machine or maybe VMware virtual machine or Azure virtual machine, Minikube cannot be installed on these machines. Okay, why? Because Minikube expects any hypervisor. Okay, so hypervisor means what? What is a hypervisor?
Yeah, it allows us to install multiple operating systems on single hardware.
Yes. So like VMware is one hypervisor, Hyper-V is one hypervisor, Xen is hypervisor. Okay, and KVM is one hypervisor. These are like hypervisors. Okay, so where we can install in a one virtual machine or one machine we can install a hypervisor, and then we can create multiple virtual machines in a single machine. It will allow us to create multiple virtual machines. But hypervisor is not allowed to install it on the AWS virtual machine because already it is created from a hypervisor, because backend AWS or cloud is using Xen hypervisor, right? So from this physical machine we are creating one virtual machine, and here Zen is allowing us to create one virtual machine. So again on top of this we cannot install another virtual like a hypervisor. So here we need one hypervisor. You can use anything. So we can use a virtual box. Okay. So Oracle virtual box hypervisor, you can use it to do, or else if you're using Linux machine, better to go with the KVM. Okay. So again, when you're installing Minikube, there will be a lot of different, different in the sense, different procedures. Okay. So which virtualization hypervisor you are taking to install it. So it depends upon little bit the configuration will be changed. So so as of now, I cannot get separate physical box to practice this. So I am going to use my own laptop to install Minikube. So in my laptop, I'll show you how to install, which means it's a Windows 10. Okay. So the installation will be on Windows 10 or maybe Linux machine. Okay. So if it is a Linux physical box, assume your laptop is having Ubuntu. So still you can use a VirtualBox or you can use KVM. Okay. So now I am going to show you in the Windows 10 machine how to install that. Okay. So for this I recommend to install Chocolatey also. Okay. So Chocolatey, anyone knows what is Chocolatey?
Package
Is it?
manager.
Yeah, package manager.
Yeah. Package manager for Windows operating system. Okay, like in Red Hat, like Linux operating system, we have yum, and for Debian and Ubuntu we have apt. Okay, for Python we have pip. Same way in Windows, to install any softwares, it's a package manager, Chocolatey. Okay, it will connect to the central repositories and it will download packages in your Windows operating system. So now in the installation of Minikube in the Windows machine. Okay, so the steps will be install Chocolatey, and with the, see, there are two types: install VirtualBox with Chocolatey, or else you know how to install VirtualBox. Directly go to the site and download the .exe file and execute it. That way also it will work. If you install Chocolatey, then it will be very simple. Then you can use this Chocolatey, install VirtualBox, then it will install latest version inside your machine. And you should have PowerShell like prerequisites. Okay, so it will be, because prerequisites PowerShell. Okay, so and admin account. You cannot execute this with a normal account. So Chocolatey, and with the help of Chocolatey also you can install, and then after that kubectl package. This is like a CLI to access the Kubernetes. Like to access the AWS, we download AWS CLI, and to access the Azure cloud, we download Azure CLI, right? So that we'll get command line. With the help of that command line, we can able to access the Azure. That easy command will get, and AWS command will get with the AWS CLI. Same way, kubectl is a command line tool which we use to access the cluster remotely. If you install AWS CLI tool in your laptop, you can able to access remote AWS environment. You can create instances, you can delete everything, right? Same way, kubectl is a command line tool to access the cluster. So this is a prerequisite to should be available inside your laptop before installing Minikube. Okay, otherwise Minikube will not work. So these are the prerequisites. And in my laptop already this Chocolatey is installed and a VirtualBox is installed. So I can directly go with installing Minikube. So here I have given the steps how to install Chocolatey in your laptop, and VirtualBox in your machine and how to install kubectl on your Windows machine. This is the command. Okay, so if you go to the PowerShell, always use right click and run as an administrator. Use this as run as an administrator and execute this command to install Chocolatey. Okay, so this is a little bit lengthy URL. So it is going to install this Chocolatey inside your laptop, and after that Choco install, which uses Choco command. So Choco install VirtualBox will install VirtualBox in your laptop, and then this is the URL you can use to install the kubectl. Okay, so now once you download this .exe, wherever you downloaded this one, you need to configure environment variable for this .exe, so that in whichever path you are there, it can be executed, right? I think most of you guys know about the environment variables. So if you go here, environment variables under the path, so what you need to do, so please see it careful. So in the advanced section we have environment variables. Go here and select here the path and edit. So here in this location I copied this kubectl.exe file, so that's why I added this one. Okay, this path. So that's why whenever, let's say, I go to the cmd, uh, if you see here dir, this is a .exe file. Okay, so I'll go to some other directory now, but still I could able to execute kubectl command because I configured it in the environment variable. That's why I can able in the Linux. You guys know, right? It should be inside the but in the Linux we no need to configure by default. It will, if you move that .exe into the usr local bin directory, then you can able to execute the command from anywhere, because already in every user's profile usr local bin will be available in the path. So just you need to move the command into the usr local bin so that it will work. So in the Windows, this way we need to configure it so that we can able to access. Okay, and then we can install Minikube. So install Minikube also we can use Choco install Minikube. Minikube will be installed. Okay, so you can go to the um, official websites also. Um, Install Minikube, the Kubernetes document. If you see here, this is the Linux. Linux means it should be a physical machine. Okay, not any virtual machine. Then only it will work. So KVM you can install hypervisor, install kubectl. These are mandatory, but they did not give steps. So I uh, noted in the file, and from there you can able to access it. So once you install this both, and then you can install Minikube. Okay. So when we use Minikube to start, we will give which hypervisor we are using, that we need to provide it here. Okay. So here, if it is a Linux
Yeah,
machine, yes, someone want to speak.
yeah, Pawan, just one question. So
Mm.
the Minikube that you have installing, you are on the top of the virtual box, right? But if I'm going for Windows, why I'll go for virtual? Because some of the times we don't have the use the external virtual box also. You can use the hypervisor enabled, and I can do that, right?
See, VirtualBox will work only if your hypervisor is enabled in your
No,
laptop.
I don't want to install the hypervisor also. Can I do that?
If you don't want to install hypervisor, then there is an option called none. This you can use it. So the VM can result in security and data loss issues before using. But I never tried without installing VirtualBox. If you want to give a try, just before installing VirtualBox, just try to install the Minikube without VirtualBox by using this -f and driver equal to none. So check whether it will work or not, because I never use, basically I never use Minikube in my office laptop also. Whenever I want to do testing, I'll have separate environment in my AWS account with the full-fledged cluster. So whatever I want to do testing, I'll do it there, because I don't get the complete features in the Minikube. So I never played with this Minikube without installing VirtualBox.
Yeah, but I have tried, it's not
Okay.
working. That's why I asked. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So here, so from this URL, you can install Minikube manually. If you want to install, you can install this way. And as I said, you can move this Minikube inside this user local bin, so that the command will be available inside that one. Okay, like I said, for kubectl. So this is for Mac. Brew install Minikube. You can use it in the Mac, and Minikube start -f and driver name you can give it. So Minikube start will start the Minikube, and you can check the status whether cluster is running or not. And if you want to stop, you can stop, and once you stop, if you want to delete, you can delete it also this way. Minikube delete, then it will be completely deleted. But if you go into the Windows option here, this is for Windows option. So Hyper-V requirements, so VM monitor mode, these are the default prerequisites will be there. And one mostly people will get issue if their VT is not enabled in their laptop. So you need to go into the BIOS and you need to enable VT to work with the virtualization. Okay. Apart from that, and I never tried in Windows 7 also, because I don't have Windows 7 operating system. So those who are having Windows 7, just give a try, and if you face any issue, just Google it, because I never tried on the Windows 7 operating system whether it will work properly or not. So in the Windows machine, the same steps. So we install Choco to install the Minikube, but prerequisites, as I said, kubectl and hypervisor should be there for Windows also. Okay. So once you install Minikube, the same commands in Linux or Windows, the commands will be the same for Minikube. We can able to use it. Okay. So as I said, to install the Chocolatey, so you need to have Chocolatey. So use this command to install it. So now let's go and install it. So you guys just install VirtualBox and this Chocolatey and this one. Let me add one more line. Add kubectl command in. Okay, and then I will share this in, I will upload this in the Google Drive so that you can follow it. So now let me connect to the PowerShell, and directly what I'll do Choco install. Already VirtualBox is installed. If you see here, can you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, can.
Okay, so this is my VirtualBox. As of now, nothing has been created. So what Minikube will do, while installing Minikube, it will use this VirtualBox and it will create one VM, and inside that VM it will install all the Kubernetes cluster software inside that VM. Okay, so that's why it is expecting one virtualization software should be available, so that it can create one VM and all the necessary packages, and that VM will act like a cluster setup, like node and master server, everything will be inside that particular cluster. Okay, so as of now nothing is there. So when we execute this command Minikube, first of all install Minikube. So it's installing Minikube. So it will take a little bit of time. When it will install, it will create a virtual machine here. So we can able to see a virtual machine and it will up and running when the it will create. Not installing, when we start it, at that time it will create it.
Ravi, there is
Yeah.
a website is play with Kubernetes. Even that is also a single node setup, right? Like
Yeah, play with Kubernetes, but that problem is most of the time it will not work. Okay, because most of the times the servers will not create. It will give you keep on. I tried many times in my previous batches, so it was giving errors. So means maybe the resources might not be available in the backend. So you can use the play with Docker and play with Kubernetes sites will be there. So you no need to create any environment there. You can go and directly use that website. Okay, so this one lab.play hyphen. So here also you can create a virtual environment and you can do practice. For this you need to have I think one GitHub account. Okay, so you should have one GitHub account. So you can use that account to log into it.
okay.
So
So this
here,
Minikube, it's
yeah, here
yeah.
you can create instances and it will create instance and you can create master and worker nodes and you can practice here. But if the resources are available, it will get created. If the resources is not available, then it will give you errors. Okay, we can execute these commands to create a cluster. So I recommend directly go and create your own environment instead of using this, because sometimes it may not be available. Sometimes if you want to use it, you can use it also. Okay. So one more node also, if you want, you can add it. Node 1, node 2.
Praveen, a quick question.
Yep.
So in a cluster, can we have multiple master nodes?
Yes, you can have multiple master nodes. So that is what I was discussing here, which way of installation you are doing. If you are using Spray, automatically it will take care of multiple master nodes and the high availability of that master node. One will be active, another will be standby. That way it will be configured. The production ready setup will be ready by the Spray. And Kubeadm, you need to manually configure each and everything inside the Kubeadm concept. And coming to this Kubernetes service, we don't need to worry about the master node, because we don't have access to master node. We will just send an API call to the master. Backend Cloud Vendor is managing the high availability for the master. So we no need to worry about the cluster high availability there. So everything will taken care by them. We just use it.
So in real-time environment, the type is a best practice.
Sorry, I did not get you.
Real-time environment, which installation is used?
That is what I said in yesterday's session. Like what your organization is using, whether it's using Kubernetes as a service, then they might be using any of this one, GK, AKS, or EKS. Okay. If they don't want it on cloud, this as a service, then if it is an on-premises data center, then they can use Spray. Okay, it's very good compared to Kubeadm and Kops, because Spray can be used on any environment. It can be VMware environment, or it can be maybe I don't want to use the Kubernetes service, but still I'm using AWS or Azure cloud virtual machines to have the cluster. Then also you can use Spray.
Well, just one thing that managed Kubernetes service that you were talking about. So in that
Hmm.
also, if you multi HA concept, if you want to access, so you don't have to do anything in backend.
No, it's their responsibility to maintain the high availability for the master.
No, if I'm using, suppose I'm using a EKS service, so but I need to do some modification in my end, right? Because how will they will maintain, but how will initiate that multi HA concept?
Multi-HA for what?
Like multi-master.
See, back end, you are going to send only the API calls to the URL. So it's their responsibility to maintain the high availability of that URL. So whether they are maintaining 2 or 3, it's up to them. So we can't see it. So we can't access it also. Only they will give the URL, and with that URL we can able to access it.
Praveen, it's like a PaaS service, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just taking time.
So, Praveen, in real time, we generally use this either Google Cloud or AWS, right?
You mean as a Kubernetes as a service?
Yes.
It depends upon the customer and depends upon the requirement. Either it can be used Azure or GKE or EKS. I gave one example yesterday, like not only the cluster service, what are the other components are dependent, and those components providing by which vendor. See, not only the applications, right? So backend there are a lot of other things are required like databases, messaging, and application gateways, load balancers, who is giving good service, and what who which vendor is having all the facilities with very less price, and compatibility of your application if it is expecting some other uh, third parties, then which vendor is providing those all these things. Based on that, we'll select which vendor is good for our environment.
Okay. So, Minikube is just for the practice purpose. It cannot be used in production environment.
Yes, it is in only for your local machines you can install and you can practice. Before installing it on any of the environment, like practicing directly, you don't want to do that activity on directly on your organization environment, then locally you can do some R&D testing, then you can use it. So in the meantime, what I'll do, I'll discuss about how we can install cluster in the AWS or any virtual. You can take any virtual machines, whether it may be uh, AWS or Azure or maybe VMware environment. How we can install with the Kubeadm concept with the Kubernetes cluster. So prepare the document in the GitHub so that we can see. So now in the docs, mm, so here assume if you are using AWS or Azure or GC, okay, if you are creating virtual machines inside the cloud environment, then make sure these are the ports should be allowed, okay, or else if you want to give all the ports should be accessed, then in the security group you just allow all the ports. Okay, it's up to you how you want to use it. But in real environment, we don't allow all the ports in the security group. Whichever ports are required, only those ports will be allowed in the security group. So that's why specifically we can give in this way. These are the ports. Okay, and the same document, almost same, you can have in the Kubernetes official document also. Okay, so it's telling Minikube version 1.12.0 already installed. Okay, so it's already available, so that's why it is telling it's already installed. So, Minikube. So these are the commands in the Minikube, basic commands. Okay, image commands, configuration, networking related. Okay, so start, status. We can see the status also. Minikube status. So to fix this on Minikube start, so we need to start it, then only we can see the status. Okay, so to start this, as I said, we need to use the hypervisor, which hypervisor we are using after installing this. So we can execute this command. So this is Microsoft Windows 10 Pro, and so creating VirtualBox VM, CPUs 2, memory almost 2 GB it is taking. If you don't want 2 CPUs it is taking, then at the time of creating this this command, at the time of executing this command also, there you can provide a hyphen CPU 1 and a hyphen memory. Okay, 1 GB. This way you can give, so that it will take the resources to create that virtual machine, whatever you are specifying, instead of default it is taking. And if you see here, it should create, see it's got created one, immediately created one VM with these 2 CPUs and 2 GB of RAM, and it will power on also automatically once it is completed these steps creating virtual machine. So let it create. So I'll talk about this. So these are the ports should be allowed. Even if you're using any environment, VMware environment, you need to check the IP tables or the security thing you need to take care. And I was, so here if you see the minimum requirement 2 GB or more of RAM per machine. So what happens, your cluster will not work properly if you don't have enough CPUs with the Kubeadm. That is a little bit disadvantage if you want to create it. If you use COPS, then it will take care having of even 1 GB RAM also. For example, in AWS, we are having T2.micro instances are free. So for master server, if you are going with Kubeadm, you should have minimum 2 CPUs and 2 GB RAM. Otherwise, it will not work. It will not come up properly. And see here, these are the ports. This is for the master server. These ports should be allowed, and these are for the worker node. These ports should be allowed. So if you do any of the port is not allowed, then the commands will not work properly. Okay, and these are the steps. And this is a repository to add inside your local machine, means in the Linux machine wherever you're installing. So it's CentOS. Okay, so this is a repository from where we can install the Kubernetes packages. So these are the packages. Same thing I have been added, but little bit with extra commands. So SC Linux should be disabled, and firewall is there, firewall should be disabled, and this is the repository we are going to add inside the virtual machine, means where we are going to execute, so that we can install the packages. These packages can be installed. Okay, so this is the Kubeadm packages we are installing. If this repo is not available, we cannot install these packages. Okay, why I am specifying specific version is, see, latest version, if you don't give these versions, basically how they will recommend, directly they'll recommend this way, the names itself. But why I specified version, because these are stable versions, okay, tested one. If you don't give version, it will install the latest version and it will not work as expected. Again, we need to troubleshoot compatibility issues, all these things. So these specific versions are tested. That's why I use specific version while installing it. Okay. So these are the steps we need to do, the complete steps to get our cluster ready. So see, it's running now. Minikube virtual machine is running, and still it's trying to create. So in the meantime, let me create. Already have one Kubernetes environment which is created for evening batch. Okay, this is my Kubernetes environment. These are two worker nodes, and this is master server. So again, I need to create one more setup now. So what I'll do, I'll create virtual machines to go with the Kubeadm. So this setup is like a complete real-time setup. Okay, one master and worker nodes. You can have one worker node or two worker nodes. So maximum it will support 5,000 worker nodes. So complete features will be available. Whatever you want to achieve in your environment, the same thing we can able to do. But for master, at least we should use a T2 dot small. So I'm going to select CentOS operating system. So it will be available in the marketplace. CentOS. You don't get confused, right? Like parallelly doing the two installation methods, or shall I wait for completing this Minikube and then shall I go with the Kubeadm?
No, it's okay. I mean, you can launch instances by the time.
So I'm selecting CentOS. You can take Ubuntu also, but I don't like Ubuntu. I always prefer CentOS or Red Hat Linux. So I'm selecting CentOS. So you should have to do this. You should have a free tier account inside the AWS. So those who don't have free tier account, just go and create a free tier account. So you can use it to install this. Or else if you don't want, then just ignore this Kubeadm concept. Then once we start creating GKE in the Google Cloud, then we can use that. Okay. Because some people might be already done AWS and they are familiar. Some people might not are aware about the AWS. So it's up to you whether you want to create a free tier account and create this Kubeadm environment. So this is as usual. We are going to create instances. So in the default VPC and the default subnet. So we are not changing anything here. And the storage part also. I'll just add a tag kubemaster. So here security group, what I'm doing, I'm not adding specific rules. So I'm going to allow all traffic. Where is that?
From master, actually, it will take only 2 CPU at least, but you have chosen micro. So is it
Yeah.
work?
So yeah. I forgot to choose instance type. I selected t2.micro. But apart from t2.micro, if you are selecting any other instance, they will charge you. So I'll take t2.medium for this one. It expects 2 CPUs minimum. So 2 CPUs is available for t2.medium. So I'm selecting t2.medium. Yes, I want to continue with t2.medium and add storage, add tags. This is a tag. All traffic. So this is for everyone, means any IP can come and access it, review and launch. So I'm going to give the key pair to access. Those who don't know about AWS, this is a key pair. AWS will not allow to log in with the username and password. AWS will allow to access with the key pair. In Azure, at the time of creating instance, it will ask us to create a username, and we can create password, and we can log into that username password which we created. But AWS will not allow us. If they will give the default username, and it will ask us to create a key pair. With the username and key pair only we can able to log in. Once we log in, then we can change it. Okay, we can do the configuration changes in the SSHD so that we can able to access with the password. Okay, so here one thing I would like to remind you, by default when you are installing this Minikube, automatically it will install Kubernetes. It is installing latest version of Kubernetes. Okay, and if you want to install specific version of Kubernetes, then as I said, like maybe latest is not compatible with something else, and maybe your hardware not supporting, there can be any problem with the latest. So you can give along with -n driver virtualbox, then you can give this option also, -n Kubernetes version, specific version, maybe 12, 13, 14, 16, 15, whatever they're comfortable with, you can use it. And while installing this, automatically it is installing the Docker also. Okay, because without Docker there is no use of Kubernetes cluster, because the pods gets created as a container. So on the Docker, the Docker also getting installed. You don't need to install Docker manually here, it will get installed. So here this is the instance got created. Okay, so in the meantime, let me create the worker nodes also. So launch instance. So worker nodes can be t2.micro. Again, it up to you, like what kind of applications we are practicing. If that application is expecting lot of CPU, lot of RAM, then it will be a problem. Okay, apart from that, we can use t2.micro also. So CentOS.
Praveen, can master and worker nodes be of different flavors?
No, both should be the same flavors.
Okay.
So we can use t2.micro, and I'll give 2 here so that 2 virtual machines gets created. And that's okay. I will do 001. So here also I am allowing all the rules, all traffic for worker nodes. Got some added component configs for API. Control plane has static pass from directory. This can take up 1% record timeout waiting for the conditions and is likely Kubernetes is not running the cloud unhealthy due to a misconfiguration of the node in some way, throwing some error.
The C group configuration you have not done, I think. That need to be disabled, the C groups.
No, I tested it already. It was working fine. Okay, so here you see already I tested this before executing that.
Now, have you configured the .q folder?
It's not required .q.
No, because
Maybe previous one properly not deleted. That's the reason it got error or not sure. Initialization failed. We'll try again. Run bash. Let it be. So here instance has been created. So these are the three instances has been created. So one is master and these two are worker nodes has been created. So we can install with the Kubeadm concept. So it is
I can see the .q folder configuration required.
automatically it will get. See, we no need to copy that config file under the .cube directory. So automatically it will get that information when we create it.
No, the .q automatically it will create, but some changes need to be done.
See, in Minikube, when we are doing this Minikube start and with hyphen that hyper virtual box, so automatically it will create set everything. So we don't need to manual anything over there. Once this is the way we can delete Minikube, stop Minikube delete. So here virtual machine also got deleted. So let me try once again that. Okay, so in the meantime, let me install inside this master server. So let me connect to it. So for if you are using CentOS image in the AWS, you should use CentOS as a username by default username. If you are using Red Hat Linux or Amazon Linux image, we can use EC2-user because they by default configure the user account inside that image. So we should use this user account. If you are using Ubuntu image, then you should use Ubuntu as an user account. So here we need to give the key, and this is a mobile stem tool. So compared to Putty tool, this is very good. Okay, those are already knows this is about mobile stem, then you can ignore it. So you can use this mobile stem to connect to any of the Unix machines. Okay. So I connected to the master. So what I'll do, if you want, we are not going to practice it here, but in case if you want to create and practice in this environment itself, then better to change the host name so that whenever you log in, then you can easily recognize which one is the master. So you can change it here, and you need to reboot it. So I'm not going to change it because anyhow we are not going to practice inside this environment. But for you, if you want to practice, just change the host names, make it as a cube master, and for remaining nodes, you can make it as a um, worker nodes. Okay, but don't change the names after installing the cluster because cluster will not recognize the new name. Then your cluster will not work. Before installing the cluster itself, rename, change the host name, and then install the cluster. So when installing the cluster, it will register with this name. Again, you need to modify the configuration files of the cluster. I need to restart the cluster. All these things need to be required. So better before only you change the host names and you can install it. So here we already created machines and these ports are allowed already. So this is the Docker. To install Docker directly, all the three commands I can able to execute on this machine. So installing Docker. So Docker is installed, and then service Docker status, start it. and make sure it's permanently on. If you execute this command, it will be available on run level 3 and run level 5. So even though if you reboot your machine, this Docker service will come online automatically. And after that, make SLNX change this SED command with the help of SED command. Those who are not aware about SED command, it's like simple. It will modify this file and it will make SLNX equal to disabled. By default, it will be in enforcing mode. So it will be in the disable mode. Very simple. If you want to do VI editor and use this file, open it, go to this line SLNX equal to enforcing, change it to disable. That's it. That will be done from this SED command. That's it. So if you see cat etc sysconfig slinux, so this is what is disabled. Okay, it's changed. Previously it was in the enforcing mode. And if you are using this CentOS machine by default, you don't have this firewall D, even though if you check service, uh, first of all, it doesn't have systemctl. So firewall D is not available. Okay. So if you are using any other operating system like Ubuntu or another operating system, if it contains firewall D, then you can disable it. And then make sure swap is also off. And these are some kernel parameters we are enabling for Kubernetes networking purpose. So we are enabling these kernel parameters. This is also again simple, like we can use VI editor command to use it, or else if used in this way, this file will get updated. Okay, this file will be get modified with these two values.
So it will turn IPv6 on.
No, we are not enabling any IPv6.
Okay.
And this is the repository. We can do one thing, we can create a file inside the yum.repos.t with the kubernetes.repo, and we can add this content over there. Or else if you completely copy this from here to here, automatically it will do. So if you go to cd etc yum.repos.t, here basically the repos will be available. When I selected CentOS image, CentOS will provide default repos. So whenever we do install yum install some package name, it will go and check in this repository and it will download. Now Docker sees this is got installed just now when I install Docker, because sometimes Docker might not be providing by this default repositories. So CentOS by default is not providing you the Kubernetes software package in their repo. So we need to download our the respective repo. So when I do yum install package name, it will contact that specific repo and download the packages. Okay, so that's why here if you see there is no name with Kubernetes. So if I copy and paste here, it will create a file called kubernetes.repo, and these lines will be added inside that file. That's it. The purpose of these lines are to create a repo. And if you see here,
Yeah,
this is the one.
yeah. The before that this command, you are setting up the networking, right? So the bridge network, like what network you have set up?
It's not any network. In the kernel parameters, we are disabling this IP6 tables. Okay, we are not going to use any IP6 tables over here. That is what, this is not any bridge network. In your machine Linux operating system, you are configuring kernel parameters to disable this IP6 tables. That's it.
Okay.
So now till now we did not install cluster because we just making it ready the prerequisites, and we downloaded this kubernetes.repo file, and inside that we added. So if you see, this is the base URL. Here Kubernetes is placing the packages of all the Kubernetes cluster. Okay, so that's why we can use this yum install this package names, so that it will get it download from this location. So if you see here, if you open this file, so the same thing, this is the repo, this is the URL. Now we can install these packages. These are the three packages are required: Kubeadm, Kubelet, and kubectl. So kubectl, you know, right? It's a command line tool, so that we can able to execute commands. So sorry, actually previously when I was executing this command, okay, so it is done actually. If you see here, done, kubectl is now configured to use Minikube, but these commands got executed accidentally. I pressed right click over here instead of clicking on this mobile stem, this 1040 and this std command. That's why we are getting this error. So you can ignore this one. So if you see here, Minikube verifying Kubernetes components enabled, default storage class storage provisioner. Kubectl is now configured to use Minikube, and I think it's created one virtual machine here. It got created. So let's see some commands over here to practice, and then we'll jump again into the Kubeadm concept. So now Minikube status. So it's running. Host, Kubelet, API server, everything is running, and you can do some commands execution. So you can log into that Minikube, the what are the virtual machine got created with the help of Minikube SSH. Also, you can able to log in into it. So if you want to log in Minikube SSH, we can able to log in into that machine. Okay, so this is a Minikube environment. You can able to log in, and so kubectl command executed on where? On my laptop. Okay, so from my laptop, I am connecting to the uh, Minikube cluster. Okay, so I can use kubectl, and let me execute kubectl get nodes. So it will send the API request to the Minikube cluster, and from there it will give you the output. You are not into the Minikube cluster, you don't need to be inside that. kubectl is in your laptop, and in the virtual box is created Minikube machine. So from here to there, it will send API request, and it will give you the output, and it is ready. And kubectl version hyphen short. So this is the version. Client version means in your local laptop. Server version means inside the cluster, which version it is taking. Okay. So now I will create one container, means pod. I will create one pod. So like how we use Docker run -it, the image name, the same way in the Kubernetes also we can use it. So this is the command we can use, and this is the name, and -rm means whenever we come out of that container, it will terminate it. Okay, it will delete it. So let me use this one. So it will create a container, and we'll be inside that. Okay, right now I'm inside the container. So we log into the container. If you want to see, so before coming out, if I come out, the container will be deleted. So what I'll do, I'll open CMD. From there, I'll execute a kubectl command from here. Kubectl get pods. This is a command to see like docker ps command to see the containers. Here we can see the pods information with kubectl get pods. Okay, this is the name with my shell, whatever I provided here. Status is running. This is a containers what created. Okay, and kubectl get pods hyphen all hyphen n. So these are some default pods will run. It's like these are like each pod is like for a cluster configuration. We'll discuss about it later. So we'll discuss about this one also. What is namespace? What is the purpose of it? Also we'll discuss. So you can execute the kubectl command. Anything you can able to execute kubectl. Once you know about the Kubernetes components, then you can able to understand what are the commands you can execute. So this is a local Minikube setup you can have. Okay, so if I come out of this container, so session ends, resume using kubectl attach my shell. So if you see automatically it got deleted. Why? Because I was using -FN rm option, so that it will get deleted when I will come out of that container. So this way you can use Minikube.
If we have more than one container in a pod, how can we connect to container inside it?
So for that, kubectl execute -it and the pod name -c container name. This way you can able to log into another container
Should we
which is inside.
specify any port? Specify any port here?
Not required. Okay, so we did not come into the container part, pods part. Okay, so once we'll do practical at that time, we'll come to know. Okay, so this is how we use Minikube, and as I said, you can delete it by using this Minikube stop, and then you can use the Minikube delete. If you are using Linux operating system, then there will be .minikube directory will be there. You can delete it, and then when you install Minikube, you are copying this file inside this location. Okay, so here it's a Windows machine. We are not using that, but if you are using Linux, then you need to delete the complete Minikube will be deleted to erase everything. Okay, so this is how we can use Minikube, and once you familiar with the Kubernetes components, then you can do R&D by executing some commands in your local machine. Okay, so if you don't want to use any AWS, and if you don't want to go with any free tier account, unnecessary charges if you don't want to pay, you can go with the this one Minikube.
So what happens, like you told like we should not use 2.micro for single CPU. So what happens? I mean, will the components won't run, or I mean, on what
Yeah,
happens,
you when
Praveen?
you install cluster, it will not work.
Okay, okay,
It will give you, it will expecting 2 CPUs.
okay, okay. Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so where we are here, so we open this file, then we are supposed to install the packages. So I'm going to install these 3 packages. This is the main Kubeadm packages, it's a cluster software, and kubelet and kubectl. So I already told you the kubelet component will be available inside the worker nodes, okay, which will take care of it. So it will install all the prerequisites by connecting to the repositories. So once it is done, then we can enable kubelet service, kubelets status, start. I can check the status. Now chk config kubelet on to make it on at the boot time. And now we need to execute this on the master server. Okay, so means, see, till here you need to execute all these commands in all the missions, even in the worker nodes also. But whichever mission you decide to be as a worker node, sorry, master node, on that mission you need to execute this command. Okay, so we have a mission with t2.medium, so that is our master. So there we need to execute this command. Okay, so this from here onwards we'll discuss tomorrow, because again it will take a lot of time. We need to install this all the commands in the worker nodes also, and then we need to configure it. It will take time, so we'll discuss tomorrow, in the sense on Monday. Okay, I'll continue this from here, how to install it from here.